Hey, welcome to the Sharon Jesus podcast, where we share stories, awesome ministry moments, and everything in between. And joining me today on this episode is our lead pastor, Michael Reese, and our student pastor, Rob Cox. And if you can tell by this episode, we're going to dive deep into Rob's story. And because we were so invested in the beginning of this episode, we really forgot to record an intro, so that's what I'm doing now. And I'm just going to kind of throw you off into the beginning of our conversation, and you'll catch on really easy. Thank you so much for joining us today. About with these episodes is a lot of people know you guys and know your family, know where you're kind of from, but they just don't know like really kind of how you got where you are in life, which
He's here, but how did he get here?
Right. And like you said, people in ministry, they're normal people. They've just been through life just like everybody else. And so it's cool just to really get to know you, dive deep into your story. And Pastor, you can kind of take it from here and we'll kind of dive into,
we already
younger Rob.
Yep, we did this here the last podcast with we interviewed Brother Sean. Brother Rob was out spending time with his family, which is a great thing that you can do. And Brother Sean is missing an action day. He's actually working on a devotional and / he's got school work. He's working on his MDiv. And that was brought up in the description in his story last week. So Rob, where did Robert Cox, grow up in this state?
I grew up in Camden, Arkansas, or I guess I spent some time in Bearden as well. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Ouachita County, that's my roots. That's where like my whole family is from. Both sets of grandparents are either in Camden or Bearden, and it's pretty cool growing up. And I really didn't realize how big of a blessing it was in my life until I got to college. But I still, to this day, I have both sets of grandparents, and I didn't realize how much of a blessing that was till I got in college. But they were both there, Camden and Bearden, 15 minutes apart. And
that is a blessing.
That's my stomping ground. So if you want to know the deep, dark stories, you go visit Ouachita County. So you might find somebody.
Yeah, there's people out there probably doesn't even know how to spell Ouachita. It starts with a
W. Starts with the O.
That starts with
an O.
Starts with an O. Well, so you're growing up there, and that's where you go to school, and you graduated from Bearden.
Graduated from Bearden. Yep, I was a coach's kid.
2008.
2008 graduation year. Yeah, and I actually had spent some time previously in Bearden as well. My mom had always worked in Bearden. She was a postmaster there, and Dad was a coach in Camden. He coached there for 19 years before he moved to Bearden. And so we were like parents were just renting houses growing up, and so we moved to Bearden. So Mom didn't have to travel as far for work. She was just like literally half mile from work. And so we just lived there. So we just I just changed schools and went there 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And then 7th grade started. Of course, athletics comes. Dad's a coach in Camden. I start riding with him. Eventually, we moved back to Camden, buy a house. And we live in Camden 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, as well as 10th grade. We were in Camden. And then Dad got the head coaching job at Bearden. He was assistant coach at Camden. Got the head coaching job at Bearden, moved up there. He was a successful coach, and I was able to play high school football, basketball, baseball, track, all that stuff, represent the school. And
now back then, whenever you were at Bearden, what size school was Bearden?
We were a 2A school, small school. Seemed like big city, growing up to some of those kids that live out in the sticks, out in the country. Fun life for, go four-wheel riding just on a Tuesday afternoon, just whatever.
And I noticed that growing up in Hamburg, and Rob was coaching there some too, and he'll get into that later. But like when you're in Arkansas, and honestly I think it's the same for a lot of students, in your class, especially in sports world, you really only know that's all you know is like schools in your class. Oh yeah, you don't know anything else.
You don't really know. That's what excited me about going to like track meets.
Yeah.
On the football field, we were really good. Like this is going to sound very prideful, I guess, but we won the game in pregame a lot of times. We were just intimidating to people. We had a great class. We had a great sophomore class as well. And but you would only see in the helmet and the pads and all that. But when you go in the spring, you see everybody at one location, right? Because we're all there at the trap meet.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool. So it seemed like, you're representing your town, but really you're only representing within our conference. I mean, probably less than 10,000 people collectively in towns.
Right.
Small, small community, but it's big to them, right? It's all about perspective there. And so, just went to school at Bearden. It was a small school, 2A, graduated with 2008 was the largest at the time. I think there's been a few bigger, 62. A whopping number of 62 graduates from Bearden
So you
High
played
School.
football all through junior high school?
Oh, man, second grade up.
Did y'all make any runs?
Make any runs? Yeah, man. We were actually really good. Seventh grade, played at Camden, didn't lose a game. Eighth grade, Camden, did not lose a game. I broke my arm. We actually tied that game. Broke my arm in the eighth grade. My thumb was
You remember who y'all
warning,
played?
graphic content here. My thumb was touching my forearm.
Oh, gosh.
It was bent back that far. We was playing Texarkana because my dad's best friend was the coach for the other team. And I remember him running out there on the field, Coach Lloyd. And anyway, we played against them. Eighth grade, we tied that game 0-0, but didn't lose a game. Ninth grade, we ended up beating them. Came back, arm was strong, undefeated there. We were really good. On that ninth grade team, man, if we could have had a playoff or something, we'd have been state champs. 5 players on my dad's ninth grade team. My dad was our ninth grade coach. 5 of them played for the Razorbacks from just that one team.
Wow.
5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Hold on. Brian, Levance, Jim, DeAnthony, and then me. So, yeah, that's 5 of us, and then several others. There was that signing class, 2008. I think there was 13 scholarships signed that day for football. So we were really good, ninth grade. 10th grade, we got a new coach, Coach Buck James, who's now the coach at Bryant. He came in, changed some stuff around, and at the time, not going to lie, I was not a big Buck James fan. Just player, he came in, changed everything up, put his system in, right? But in hindsight, it worked, right? It just took time, and his system was set a certain way. He built for that, eventually won a state championship in 2012. But, when we went to Bearden, when Dad got the job at Bearden, my 11th grade year, because he was just still an assistant at Camden, we immediately went there, and we went 12-2 first year, got beat in the semifinals of the playoffs. And I remember we went to Jessieville and played. It was a very cold game. Very, very cold. And then the next year we got beat in a state championship game. But over my first and second year was Dad's, or my junior and senior year was Dad's first and second year there. He coached at Bearden another 3 years, went 61-8. So if you're talking about runs, yeah, we made some runs in high school, and he was a big part of it. Dad was.
So
That's cool.
y'all, obviously football was huge in your family with your dad being a coach and everything. Now, did you ever go to church, or did y'all go to church at all in Camden or Bearden or?
Well, yes and no. Growing up, being a coach's kid, coaches are busy. If any listeners don't know that, coaches are
Even
really
on Sundays.
Yeah, Sunday's a really busy day for coaches. So, Dad would always schedule 2:00 coaches meetings, so 2:00 till whenever they get done, right?
On Sunday?
Yeah. So he'd give time for church, but that was the only time to sleep in, because Saturdays was going to games, like Pee Wee games, 7th grade jamborees.
Right.
There was always something. Life was just busy.
Yeah.
And of course, I played basketball and then went to baseball and track. That season was busy as well. You'd have Saturday games sometimes, and man, church really wasn't just a top priority, I guess, or maybe that was a bad word, but a top priority, because ultimately it was, because the story that happened, I was saved at a younger age, and because my parents, we were at church, I guess, enough.
Right.
But no, man, we wasn't ever church members. Didn't we hopped around. We would visit here. We'd get in a season and we'd be consistent. But really wasn't plugged into church how I am now. And so I look back on that, kind of regret it. But you live and you learn. I love my parents, and sometimes they tell me, "Oh, we wish we, could have been in church more, or whatever." And I'm like, "Mom, Dad, it's okay, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't change it today.
No, I wouldn't change it today. God is still God, and He's going to work how He works, and He's going to use whoever He wants to. And through His Holy Spirit, I was saved at 11, so I'm thankful for that. But yeah, we were in and out of church. Family members went to church, and so went to church with friends. Several friends went to VBS growing up. Went to those things with friends, but it wasn't never my church. It was like I was always the guest, so I did up like 3 VBSs a summer. So I was the church hopper, I guess, growing up. Yeah.
So you mentioned your salvation at a younger age. What was that time like, I guess, when you heard like the gospel?
That time we were actually, I wouldn't say heavily involved in church. We were consistently going, I guess, enough. And the Word of God was being preached every time we went. And that till today is important. The Word of God can do a lot of things. And so we were going, and at Camden at Emmanuel Baptist Church, which is now Oasis Church in Camden. But growing up, like that was like my family's church, my dad's side of the family. And so we'd go there a lot, and they do a revival each year. They no longer do it, but it was a big deal. Like, it was called the Living Christmas Tree. And so it's got a drama production with it. There's a big Christmas tree full of people, a choir singing, but the gospel's also being preached. So I knew through listening to the word, right, listening to preaching, I knew that I was a sinner. That's what hit me first, of realizing that, hey, I am a sinner. I do fit this category. What now, right? What now? So the gospel's being presented, and I figure out what's next, right? What's my next step is, hey, I need to be saved. Like in order for me to go to heaven, I need to be saved. I don't think it was necessarily a fear thing of, I don't want to go to hell. I realized that I was a sinner. I wanted to go to heaven. In order to get to heaven, I knew that I needed to be saved. So I remember, like, right in the area of the pew, like I could go there today and go right over there to that pew and remember the prayer that I prayed when I was 11 years old at the Living Christmas Tree. But because of my inconsistency in church, I never made that step for church membership, for baptism. I never made that, right? And so I just knew that I was saved. I knew I was going to heaven. The Holy Spirit convicted me, but that's where it started, right? And so that was my spiritual journey. It started there in Camden, Arkansas, Emmanuel Baptist Church. Still have family going to that church today. Very thankful for that church.
That's pretty cool. Then you end up graduating 2008, and you head to college.
Yes. That was a fun time. I'm not gonna lie. Looking back on it, my priorities were so far out of line, and I realized that once I started coaching. But senior in high school, really it started as junior, starting to get this college interest. So like several D2 schools in the state of Arkansas offered me scholarships, half scholarships.
Probably offered the other guys, I said, that went with you.
Scholarships
too.
And so we're getting, remember Henderson was on me, Arkansas Tech, UAM, like you name them, I'm talking to. OBU offered me half. By the way, half at OBU is like a whole at somewhere else.
Yeah.
So couldn't afford to go there. But there was a school that came in and got me, that drew my interest, was University of Central Arkansas. So I remember Coach Hollinsworth, great guy, great coach. He came in, recruited me, wanted to bring me in as a tight end and long snapper. And so I signed with them, went there, had a lot of, majority of my school was paid academically. So they didn't have to offer me much athletic money, right?
Yeah.
So I go to UCA, and I'm there and going through camp, and a bunch of things, this is the typical story, a bunch of things happened, and I decided right then, year one, UCA was not the place for me. Was I lied to? Maybe. Was I misled? Maybe. But UCA was not the place for me. I was not doing what I needed to do. I was not following my dreams. So all the schools that I gave up on, they're still on the table, the D2 schools. I remember actually there was a time that I was thinking about going to the Air Force Academy. Like they were talking to me, but then I found out you had to wake up at 4 a.m. and iron your bed sheets, and I was like, no, that's not me. So I'm not going. So anyway, I quit at UCA, and I decided, hey, I'm going to go to SAU Tech in Camden for the spring semester. and transfer somewhere after that. The summer, catch up. So anyway, long story short, the first week of classes at UCA in January, it's like second week of January, Bobby Petrino calls me and says, "Hey, can you be enrolled in school by Friday?" It was Wednesday. I was starting school. Friday was the last day to enroll for the spring semester. I was literally in my vehicle headed to class at SAU Tech, and he called me. And I put the car in park and prayed about it, and I was like, this is where I need to go. This is it, Razorbacks, boom, D1 school. I'm going to transfer. I got to sit out a year because of transfer rules and all that. But I was like, hey, I'm going to go up there. Coach Allen was the one recruiting me there throughout the Christmas season, I guess. There was a recruiting time, and he found out that I was leaving UCA. He knew I was a long snapper, wanted another long snapper on the hill. Mm-hmm. So I was like, yeah, I'm there. And so my University of Arkansas journey started. 2009, I guess, would be the spring 2009. So went up there and had a good time. Graduated University of Arkansas. Got several stories about college life, even spiritual life in college. That's where my journey got started in college. Left Bearden High School, graduated, and boom, 2009 spring, I am in Fayetteville.
What you mentioned about the spiritual stories in college, what does that mean?
Well, I'll say this. I was your typical college kid. And being an athlete, there's a certain stigma that comes with that. Carries a lot of weight. Are you the big man on campus? No, but you're held to a different standard.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on that question too, his question, so you can kind of answer them both at the same time. I was going to ask you, let's just crush all the conspiracies and tell us from a student athlete perspective, what that college life is like at Fayetteville. Because I'm sure everybody wonders and they have ideas and they think they know.
Yeah.
Right? They think they know.
It is busy. And I'll tell you, the busiest part of it is not the season. The season is when we get to relax and just enjoy the season. Weight training goes from an hour and a half long to 45 minutes during the day. And so, you got a lot more time to just relax, focus on class, and focus on Saturday. But, man, it's a constant hustle and bustle. There's Sunday night team meetings, things to be at, study halls. You got to get 8 hours of study hall in during the week. And so mix that in after your practice, after your team meals, after your film, after your weight training, and you got 8 hours of study hall. You don't have much of a life as a student athlete is the deal. And so kind of jumping back on the spiritual side of it, within that, I'm thankful for guys because I was saved. I knew it. I wasn't living for the Lord by no means. Like I said, typical college athlete. But there was something special, a standard that I held myself to. Made a buddy bet back in the day, we was 8 or 9, ninth grade. Now we were being tempted with alcohol and tobacco and drugs, and so we made a little pact, right, that we would not drink, do drugs, any of that stuff. Yeah. And it stuck. Till this day, I've never taken a sip of alcohol, and I don't. And that wasn't even spiritually led, but I'm thankful for that example because I look back on it and I made a decision that, hey, by me doing this, if it impacts just one person, then my decisions was all worth it. Mm-hmm. If I could just impact one person with that story to refrain from using alcohol and drugs and be the college athlete, be the quote-unquote part of the cool club, right? You put the Razorback sweatshirt on, you walk through campus, and you're held to a different standard. And so the faculty would hold you to a different standard. They knew who you were. But with that comes a lot of responsibility, right? So you got to protect the Razorback name. And so...
did y'all have a team chaplain?
Team chaplain at the time... yes and no. We had an FCA director. Okay. Very thankful for this man. If he ever hears this, Tyler McMahon, I'm very thankful for you. But he would pour in to our team. So the whole team knew him, but whether or not you went to the Bible study with him was a different thing, right? And so I remember guys like Coach Tim Horton, one of the greatest coaches that I've been around. He's now, I think, back at the Air Force Academy at Arkansas, Auburn. He's been at Vanderbilt, I think, but I think he's back at Air Force Academy now. I need to catch up with him. But, yeah, great influences there. But Tyler McMahon would come in and pour into us each Wednesday right after practice. We'd get our meal, and we'd go do Bible study. And there'd be 20 guys, maybe 30. So a college football team, roughly 110 to 120 guys.
Yeah.
You had a quarter of the team being poured into.
Pretty good.
And you think about the hustle and bustle of the life and things that we're being exposed to. Of course, you hear the stories about, college parties and the girls and all this stuff. Like a lot of that stuff's true, but it's a matter of choices, daily choices that you make. And so I'm very thankful for him. Some of my teammates I'm thankful for. Position guys like Rhett Richardson. These were the specialists. Dylan Breeding was our punter, roommate of mine for a year. Cameron Bryan, Nick Brewer, another guy wasn't even a football player, Jimmy Kim. We would get together and do Bible studies during the week, and that was pretty cool to have teammates inviting you to a Bible study there in the dorm, and we'd go find a study room, and we would do a Bible study just us. And looking back, I'm thankful for those moments, right?
That's
Just a
pretty cool.
simple college athletes pouring into each other and studying God's Word together. That was cool. And that kind of held me to a bigger standard, I guess. I was like, hey, these guys that I practice with every day, they see me and things. So now we need to hold each other accountable.
Right.
And that was pretty cool to have there in college. But yeah, man, went through college. Wasn't living for the Lord, doing some things I shouldn't have been doing, promoting some things I shouldn't have been promoting. But the whole time I stayed true to like the alcohol and drugs thing and all that. Never once have.
Which still, you
done
told me stories, and we don't have to dive into them, but many times where you've been to parties and stuff and been offered it, and you just said, "That's not me,"
Yeah. Funny story. I had a buddy. His name was Matt Crowder. And we're going over there to this get-together party, if you want to call it. And I don't remember if it was some softball girls. A lot of athletes would hang out together, or track girls. Somebody came up, offered me a drink, and we had just gotten there. And Matt says this, and it was so funny. He says, "Excuse me, ladies, he can't drink. He's Jehovah's Witness." And I looked at him. I was like, "Dude, where do you come up with this stuff?" And they looked confused, and they just accepted it. Like, okay, I'm gonna move on. I was like, "Dude, I got this."
Witness for Jehovah.
And that was so funny to me. Yeah, it
funny.
was so funny. I was like, "Dude, I can handle those situations. Like, I'm not being tempted. That stuff." I mean, if you can convince me that a drink of alcohol is better than a Gatorade, maybe, but you can't convince me of that. Those things are good.
Well, as we wrap up your time in college, did you ended up graduating from University of Arkansas?
Barely. No, I did.
And
I
the quick
graduated.
trivia
Grades.
note before you graduate him, and that is, of course, he's a movie star.
Oh, yeah.
That was right after. This was post-graduation.
I didn't know how it landed.
This was my first year of teaching at the end of that.
Timing.
Yeah,
Okay.
timing of that. We can get into that after the break.
Sure.
There, but-
So, do you happen, as we wrap this up, your story is a little different than all of ours because, you're a student athlete in college, so you had lots of friends. Who were some of your, closest friends that you still have to this day?
Closest friends to this day, college. Got a guy, we were roommates on and off here and there. So one of my closest friends, best friends forever, he wasn't a college athlete, but buddy of mine growing up, Paul Mosley, lived with him a lot. We did life together growing up in Camden, and he was at college as well, and we roomed together for a while. But yeah, great college time there. But guys like Josh Throneberry, Telvin Griffin, these guys were walk-ons just like me at the University of Arkansas. You wouldn't know them. Ryan Farr, Ronald Watkins from Virginia. I was at his wedding a year and a half ago over in Memphis. And just guys like that. And we hung out together. We did some silly stuff together. But the names that you might know, like DJ Williams was a great leader of our team. He's still a friend today. I see him occasionally. We talk and text. We also got another CAC grad, and Josh and Ryan were CAC grads, so that's Joe Adams. You probably know that name. I was friends with him some in college, just naturally with Josh and DJ and Ryan. I would see him a lot. But there's several more guys. I mean, if I saw them today, we'd hang out, no doubt about it. Some big names that you've seen, pro guys and all that. But I'm not going to name drop here. They're friends, and I would never do anything to hurt them. But, man, great college life. I wouldn't trade anything, but I do. Before we go to break, I do want to say this. I had a great sphere of influence in college, even in high school. And I talked about this in our youth ministry episode about, students, about what they have in high school. But I regret that time. Maybe I wasn't doing all the bad stuff, but I was there. I was promoting it.
Right.
I mean, we even hosted parties. Like, we had a big deal, and like we would throw parties for apartment complexes.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah.
Like you were like you didn't drink, but you still
Yeah,
promoted
like
it.
I was there, and so that I regret that to this day. Like, we were even talking about opening up a nightclub, right? And I'm glad the Spirit got a hold of me and was like, hey, no, this is not your life. This is not the route you need to go down. And so real quick, I knew there was something else out there for me. But I want to encourage anybody sitting wherever you are, with any workplace, whatever, be an influence where you are. Be where your feet are. Be a good influence, because you're going to look back on life and have regrets like me of saying, hey, I could have had an impact at the University of Arkansas in the locker room of the football Razorbacks, but I was just a lot of times just fitting in.
Yeah.
I was just a follower of whatever the cool thing was to do, and I was just hanging out. I look back and I'm saying, man, I wish I would have been an impact for the gospel in that locker room, and it would have been
Amen.
The stories would have been so much better looking back. But, hey, it gives me an opportunity through knowing guys like that.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll have the chance, the open door, to make that influence.
Yeah.
But whoever's listening, be an impact wherever you are today.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, we're going to take a quick break real quick, and we'll dive into, after the Razorbacks, after college, and just what came next for Rob in his life. Hey guys, welcome back. As we were diving into Rob's story, we talked about high school, junior high, college, playing for the Razorbacks, and Rob, you graduate from Arkansas, and what's next? What's your first step after you graduate?
Well, my first step was finding a job, and to be honest with you, I almost stayed at Fayetteville to pursue a master's degree.
Yeah.
I didn't know where I was going to get a job. I was floating around up in Springdale, Fayetteville area, Bentonville, Rogers, field houses, talking to coaches. Was up in Bentonville a lot, and but nothing seemed right. And so I was like, hey, Dad called me one day. I was like, hey, I got a job opening in Hamburg. This is where he was. He'd been there for a year. He had a position on the junior high staff come open, teaching job. He's like, come home this weekend. I'm going to introduce you to so-and-so. So I got the...
So that'd be the fall of 12.
This was the fall to summer of 12. This was in July. I did have one class to finish, first summer session, to get that finished up. So once I finished that, I was hireable, I guess. The July 4th break, right after July 4th, I was hired at Hamburg. But yeah, Dad called me up and said, hey, come meet this guy. What I did not know is this guy was the athletic director, Bob Davis, and Dad just said, come up here and meet him. Well, Dad also told me an hour earlier, hey, can you mow the yard for me? So I'm in shorts and a cut-off shirt going to an interview I had no idea that I was going to.
Oh, my.
And so
You didn't know it was an interview.
No, I just going to meet this guy. I'm a college. I hadn't really made my mind up.
Yeah.
And so I show up, and it's an interview. Hey, let's go meet the principal. What can you teach? I'm like, boom, boom, boom. Next thing you know, I'm a seventh grade math teacher, junior high football, junior high head basketball there at Hamburg.
That's cool. Before the break, I mentioned something about a movie. How did that play out?
Yeah, so single guy, first year coaching and teaching. That spring semester, we were actually, it was about this time of year, towards the end of school. There was 2 weeks left of school. I go to a college graduation from one of my close friends in college. Forgot to mention Mitchell Bailey. He had transferred to ULM, finished out there. He was a running back on the team because Arkansas wouldn't give him a scholarship. He ran out of money. He's like, I got to go where I can get paid. And so he goes. ULM beats Arkansas at War Memorial. I remember it. It was so cool. So I go to his graduation down at Monroe because of somebody I was hanging out with, my future wife, Haley. Her sister was graduating as well. And so I catch up with him right after, take a picture with him, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, what are you doing? He said, hey, I'm going to Fayetteville tomorrow to start shooting this movie Greater. Mitchell was good friends with the Burlsworth family throughout college. I mean, we'd go up a lot of times into their booth at the basketball games, and I met them there, and great people. And so I was just jokingly, I said, hey, man, if y'all need somebody else for that movie, just let me know. The next night, I get a phone call from the guy that's like the director of the cast, I guess. And he's like, hey, your friend Mitchell's here. We need for a certain scene, we need a guy that knows how to long snap. He said you were like the long snapper. I was like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I immediately called my superintendent. We were at the sports banquet the following night in Hamburg. It was a Monday. We was at the sports banquet. I talked to the superintendent. I was like, hey, look, there's 2 weeks of school left.
Was that Dyson then?
Yes,
Yeah.
Max Dyson. And I was like, it's a cool opportunity, but I mean, I'm a teacher here and coach. Like coaching duties were done. Like we were, school
Yeah.
year's being done. And so I asked him, and he actually encouraged me. He's like, man, this would be a great opportunity. I mean, a coach here, former Razorback, you get to go, one of our teachers can go be a part of a movie about in-state guy. I was like, all right, what I do? He said, make sure your semester tests are submitted, all this stuff. Make sure you get some sub plans ready, and you're good to go.
That's cool.
I was like, wow. So, yeah, we went and shot a movie in Fayetteville right outside of Fayetteville, Lincoln, I think. There's a scene shot there. And we did actually, our fourth week was at War Memorial. We were filming, if you've seen the movie Greater, the Tennessee game. That's like the big one, right? And from Burlsworth years, the stumble and fumble, And so we're at War Memorial shooting from like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Like we were 12-hour shifts, and so we'd sleep during the day. They put us up in the hotel. I think it's like 4 Points now, but it was like the Hilton.
Yeah.
We'd stay there and then go right over there to shoot at night. And so that was pretty cool. And then we went back to Fayetteville to shoot a few scenes the following week in the indoor facility at Arkansas for the Colts. Like they had the indoor facility decked out with all Colts stuff. It looked like a professional thing. So we just used the same cast. We'd dress up different. And pretty cool time. It was pretty cool to see how movies work and also get the inside story, meet these actors that was in the movie. Neil McDonough. He's the guy that's in a lot of movies, and he's always like portrayed as the bad guy. Mm-hmm. And I talked to him about this guy's a big Christian, big faith guy. And that's why he was in the movie, right? Like he wanted to be this guy, Burlsworth's brother, and just working with him, real cool guy. Like you could just go talk to him, and like I actually helped him teach him how to kick a field goal. He was excited about that, right? Just a specialist guy, and the coach in me. So yeah, it was a great time. But he's a great guy. He's always the bad guy in the movie, but he's a good guy. Like he's a good guy in real life.
He's a really good guy.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, and so filmed that movie, and boom, several years later, it comes out. I forget. Like they kept pushing it back because it gained so much interest. They was going to have a small Arkansas release. And then all of a sudden, they bumped it back like 6 months because some networks got a hold of it, I guess, and said, hey, we're going to promote this. And it turned out to be a big movie and still is today on Netflix. So if you hadn't seen the movie Greater, great story. Brendan Burlsworth, great walk-on story, becomes scholarship guy, tragically killed in a car crash before his pro career started. Yeah. And anyway.
Great family film.
Great family film. So if you're looking for a great family film, look for Greater as well as number 85 for Arkansas Razorbacks in that movie. You might see my face. And so, yeah.
A lot younger version.
Yeah, there's no facial hair. They made me shave for it, look younger. So, yeah.
Yeah, you did. And so you're working at Hamburg, and you meet a young lady somewhere along the way, and is one of my church members, and you end up coming to Promised Land.
Yeah, and that was like... It was my first date with her. I'll tell you, Haley Joe, my first date. She had been around the school. This was the first semester, so my movie career got started, I guess. It was a one take, right? It was like that one-hit wonder, right?
Date? Like, hey,
yeah. But my first date was December 21st, 2012. It was at the end of the first semester, and we go out, we see a movie, go to dinner.
Which she was teaching there at the time at Hamburg.
No, she was a college student at Jonesboro, Arkansas State.
That's right.
She was finishing up college. So
I know her mom was there, though.
Her mom was there. Her mom was a facilitator at the time, eventually became the principal that she is today. And she's actually getting out of being the principal.
So that's why she was around.
But yeah, she was around helping her mom, and her mom helped me out a lot because she was there to help teachers.
Yeah.
Like that was She was the instructional facilitator, I think was her official title. But she helped me a lot teaching-wise because I was a PE trained guy. Like, you put me in a gym with 100 kids, I can control that chaos.
Yeah.
You put me in a room with desk and math, there's certain things that I wasn't trained for. And so she came in and helped me a lot.
Yeah.
So that's just naturally, that's where I saw her, met her, and then one thing led to another. There's a buzz going around school. Rob, the single guy, and Haley Joe, and these rumors get started.
Which, if you don't know Hamburg, like,
it's small town.
yeah. And so, like,
Doesn't
everybody
make
knows
much.
everybody knows Rob's the new guy and he's single, and
everybody knows Haley,
Joe
'cause
grew up there.
yeah.
They know she's all single, so they're just
And
like,
so they're all like, the whole school's playing matchmaker. The
Yeah.
whole school's playing matchmaker.
Yeah.
But that was kind of fun, just going back those memories. It was really cool. And so we started dating. Started going up. Jonesboro, she'd be down at Hamburg, and we'd go on dates. And she eventually, I knew what I was looking for. I knew, because the Holy Spirit was leading me, I knew I needed to be in church. I knew that's what I longed for. But I'm like a big family guy. Like, I'm probably not the guy that's going to go by himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so this girl comes along. She's like, "Hey, if you're going to date me, you're going to go to church."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Yes, ma'am." And Promised Land Missionary Baptist Church, here I come Sunday. Right.
There you
And rest is history right from there.
Which
but,
it's
man,
funny looking back on it, because I remember Rob's first Sunday, because everybody's like, "Yo,
That's
Haley,
cold."
Haley Joe has a man with her. Who is this guy?" But everybody knew you too, because you were a coach.
Coach Rob, that's what they
Yeah.
all knew me as.
And of course, you.
So a lot of people were probably in the back pew, like high fiving and stuff. Like,
He's here.
And Caleb, he was your coach.
he was, yep.
Yeah.
Ninth grade.
Ninth grade.
I was ninth grade basketball player.
Yeah.
At his first year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
So
put
you
Caleb
rock-
in the game, and they'd all yell, "Shooter!"
Yeah, because that's all I could do, really.
Yeah, the one of the few white kids on the team.
Yeah.
It's just the way the demographics were.
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. And Caleb
You know-
was pretty good, though.
Yeah,
Caleb was.
he could definitely shoot the ball. He inherited his dad's speed, unfortunately, and
Which is slow.
Yeah. And
case you were wondering.
I've even got a slower gear than that. But so you end up baptizing. You joined the church. I remember having that conversation in the foyer of the of the
Those green chairs.
Yep.
You used to take naps in those during
Which
lock-ins.
I
That's up
should
in
make
Trey.
the. I've been doing
a neat
the
four-year.
picture to the these podcasts different depending on whose story it is, and like Sean Welchman, I should make the picture of you baptizing him, because I know where it's at.
Oh, yeah.
I can find it.
Yeah, find it,
Mhm.
man. But yeah, so
got one of him standing and him kneeling. I had to put him on his knees
Yeah.
to put him under.
Yeah.
yeah, but that was pretty cool. I started getting involved, started serving. Trey, a good friend of mine, talked to him yesterday. He was a youth pastor there, and he invited me to come get involved, be the games guy. Like, that was my job, just come and facilitate the game.
With the students.
Yeah, and so that's how I got involved with youth. And then next thing I know, it's like a year later, I'm still floating around. Several people thought I was a church member. I was like, no, like, I need to get this right. So I talked to you about baptism. I've never been baptized, never been a member of a church. And so, boom, get baptized.
That was one thing I loved about small town ministry, is like somebody like Rob, one of the coaches at Hamburg, could come serve at a church on Wednesday nights just for the game guy, but at the same time you knew most of the students there, and like you knew their situation, and you knew their mom and dad, and if you didn't know them, like you sort of did, and you could contact them if you were worried about something, or like just joke around with them all the time. It's like, "Hey, I know your mama. I'm gonna tell them what you was doing tonight." But there's that like really personal relationship in small town, and that's one thing I loved about growing up in Hamburg.
Yeah, and
was
I loved
just-
it. Like, I love that aspect of
Yeah.
it, because it gave me, as a coach, it gave me a bigger platform.
Yep.
Because at school I was very limited on things that I could say, my witness, and if a kid asked me, then I was an open book and tell them. But how many times does a kid ask you about your spiritual life?
Yeah.
We're always trying to pour in. So it gave me a platform that I could go in. I got into some small groups here and there, helped lead with Jim Wells some, and I just enjoyed it. Got plugged in, and I was like, man, this is where I need to be at. Like, this is important.
And it just started like as the ball started rolling, and it became more and more.
So and I know part of your story, you end up getting to go to church camp one summer.
Yeah, so ended up leaving Hamburg, coaching Dad, Buck James, who I talked to him or talked about him earlier.
Yeah.
He was at Camden for a while, and he left. And throughout my dad's success, he's been gone from Camden, I think it was 8 years.
Yeah.
They called him. I was like, hey, will you come and be our head coach? And he was like, that's hometown. His parents are there. Our whole family's there.
Uh-huh.
So he's like, and pay raise, So he's like, yeah, let's do it. And so I had a decision to make. I was actually, it's kind of, I guess my calling started there.
So you're already married at this time?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No,
Not yet.
not yet.
Oh, that's right.
It was
I
first
remember
year
now.
at Camden.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I knew that it was coming.
But your dad left
I
Hamburg,
was shopping
right?
for rings. Yes, Dad leaves Hamburg. He goes to
Camden, yeah.
And I'm sitting there, talks at home. I'm still, I'm just living
Did you
with
stay
him.
1 year at Hamburg?
No. Almost did. But I was thinking about getting out of coaching. I actually interviewed at another school in Louisiana just to stay local to Hamburg. I love the church. I was dating Haley, and I wanted to stay local there. And interviewed. Got offered the job, but it came down to it. I even thought about getting out of coaching, go pursue a job in sports sales, and just a bunch of things. But I knew there was something different other than coaching that I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
I couldn't pinpoint it though. Like I was just running. Even me and a buddy of mine, we borrowed money from a bank. We were going to open up a restaurant in Hamburg. Like we had the money. Like we were about to. The transaction was about to take place this week. Dad got the job. I'm glad it happened because. My story wouldn't be the same if it didn't. So Dad finally just tells me, he's like, hey, I need you in Camden. Need you to come. And I was like, Dad says he needs me. I'm there. So end up going to Camden, coach there, and Haley and I still dating. Still going to church in Hamburg. It was weird. Like we would drive an hour and a half to go to church because she was finishing up her senior year. Mm-hmm. I was in Camden, so I just drive over on weekends. We'd meet at her parents, and then we'd go to church together, and then I'd go back home. And so that football season, I knew that I was going to marry her. She was going to finish school, so I asked her to marry me the night of the Camden and Hamburg game.
Because she was still in Hamburg.
Dad, when he was coaching at Hamburg, scheduled a game series with Camden. So when he became the Camden coach, well, we're still in a contract, so we're coming back to Hamburg to play. And so we're going to Hamburg, and I was a guy, big family guy, and so I was like, where can both of our families be at the same location and it not be obvious? Football game. Boom.
Yep.
Football game. And she tells me to this day that she had no idea. It was like the biggest town secret.
I think I was in 10th grade. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
you,
right.
You was 10th or 11th.
And I loved football, but
Yeah.
I was okay not going to some football games.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom and dad saying, hey, y'all, we're going to Camden Hamburg. And I was like, why? I don't care. And they were like, no, we're all going.
We're all going.
I was like, but she said, just
It's
stay.
about to go down. You're going.
I remember in fourth quarter, Mom said, she texted me and said, hey, come sit up here by me. And I was like, what are you? Like, no, what? I'm
They was keeping it from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I go up there, and she said, watch this. And it was right after the game.
Yeah. So what Haley didn't know is she was sitting by my mom a lot of the game, and because she was on the Camden side, so she's sitting by my mom because she was a Hamburg fan, and she didn't realize that the ring I gave to my mom to hold during the game because I'm out there on the field coaching. I'm like, I don't want to lose that, you know.
Yeah.
And so I told her after the game, just come pass it to me behind my back. So Haley's sitting right beside the ring by her purse the whole game. She had no idea. But I actually contacted the cheerleaders from Hamburg for them to make a sign, as well as the Camden team to make a sign. So I had both sets of cheerleaders in on this as well. So they got this big sign because we didn't run through a sign. We had that blow-up tunnel thing.
Yeah.
And so they pop up these signs after the game. Like, game's over, but they got these huge signs made. And so the first sign was the Camden cheerleaders, and it said, no matter the town or the team, and it had like the Razorback on it for my school, the Red Wolf from her school, and then the Hamburg Lion on it and the Cardinal on it. Mm-hmm. And then that sign dropped down. It said, I want you on my team for life, and it had like a picture of a ring on there. And then she turns around, and I'm sitting there on a knee. The high school principal at Camden, Gary Stillman, I still remember it. He's telling everybody, get back. He's being the principal because he's in on it too. Get back. He's clearing the way. And there's video on Facebook somewhere. But cool. And she said yes and asked her to marry me. The whole team just jumping for joy.
Yeah.
We had just won too, right? I don't know what it would have been like if we'd have lost, but what would the mood been?
Yeah.
But we're on the field, just celebrated.
Yeah.
And then I feel bad for the Hamburg players, but they knew me and love those guys. Would do anything for me ever. But we're sitting there celebrating again, and they just got beat. So looking back as a high school player, that would have been like, get off, Coach Rob, get off the field.
Yeah.
But and so we planned a wedding, got married the following summer, at the end of summer, right before school started. She graduated, and we get a house there in Camden. Second year there, she's a dietitian at the hospital in Camden. That's what she went to school for. She did not go to school to be a teacher, and she was dietitian at the Camden Hospital for a year. And then we moved. We moved to Hamburg because I left Camden. Was not exactly happy. There were some spiritual stresses in my life, I guess, and so I was like, I got to get away from this situation.
But y'all were still driving to Promised Land, weren't you?
Yeah, like we were still, because we were visiting churches in Camden, but a lot of times we'd be at Promised Land just as much as we were visiting churches.
Yeah.
And I guess we just loved the Promised Land family, like loved the vibe there.
Yeah.
Great loving church. And so we just loved, and it was a time we could go and visit family. Like it was her, so it was like a twofer. We'd go see her parents, and then we get to go to church with our church family.
Yeah.
And we were trying to find one, just never could. And then next thing you know, the Lord leads us away from Camden, and she ends up going back to college to get her MAT, Master's of Arts in Teaching, so she can become a classroom teacher. The following year, she leaves being a dietitian. She is now a school teacher at Hamburg, and I actually get hired at Hamburg to coach. I was there for 3 months. We did spring ball in May. Then I was, 2 months. I was there in June for workouts, 7-on-7s and stuff. And then Drew Central called me, a little 3A school right up the road from Hamburg.
Yeah.
And we were living in Hamburg. We had just moved there. And they called me, will you come be the head coach? I was like, well, it's only like a 25-minute drive. I was like, I'll go. I interviewed, and I told the head coach, I was like, look, the school wants me to be the head coach, whatever. And I become a head coach at 26, and she's a teacher in Hamburg. I'm coaching at Drew Central, and good life. Good life.
Easy
Enjoy it.
highway commute.
Oh, yeah. I could be at the school. I wouldn't have to leave till 7:30. I'd get there before 8. I was late some mornings.
So what comes next?
What comes next, man?
I remember in this part of your stories, this is where y'all really settle.
Yeah.
But you don't.
See, that was one of the toughest parts of life. We were searching to get settled, I guess.
Yeah.
That'd be like a good sermon title, right? It just sounds good.
Searching to get settled.
So we were trying to get settled, and just I knew, like I'd made a personal commitment. Haley knew it as well, that I was going to be at Drew Central. Not known for football, but I was going to build a program and see what happens. I was going to commit to 5 years. That was my goal. Commit to 5 years. And then we was like, you know what? Hey, it's a great town to be in. We bought a house in Monticello. Easy commute for Haley to get back. She was actually working for her mom. Her mom was a principal. Mm-hmm. And we enjoyed it, man. We bought a house. Life was great. Like, nice yard, nice house. And she's teaching, I'm coaching, doing my thing. We're impacting kids. And I shouldn't have went to church camp, I guess is the moral of the story. But the first year I wanted to go to church camp, was going to go.
Because a lot of your football players went, right?
Yeah, so when I was going to church in Hamburg, and with Trey was there, I committed to go and be a sponsor for him. And so because I was going back to Hamburg, I was like, man, that'd be a great time, be a coach there. I'd already arranged to have that week off. But then I get the head job at Drew Central up the road. That's like a week before 2-a-days starts. And I'm like, Trey, I can't go. I just like it. This is my first year as a coach. I can't leave that week. It's right before 2-a-days. So I don't go and feel bad about it. I think Haley still goes. I think she goes to be a cell group leader. Maybe not. I don't remember exactly, but missed it. And so I told myself, I'm the head coach. Next summer, I'm going to camp. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
It's important. A lot of my players had went to camp. they missed that week of weights and practice and all that, and they were going to the camp I was supposed to go to. And I made a commitment. I was going to do that. So before the summer even started, I knew that week was off. I told all the coaches, any family vacations, whatever, trips, shopping, whatever y'all need to do, that's the last week to do it.
Yeah.
After this, we're full tilt boogie, I guess.
Yeah.
It is time for football. And so, I went to church camp. And like I said earlier in the episode, I was like, hey, I knew there was something else besides coaching, but I thought I'd had it figured out. Head coach at 26. I'm now 27. I was like, this is good right here. There's some success happening here. We're growing. Junior high programs being successful. 7th grade's won some games. High school didn't win one my first year, but we're building. We're getting stronger. I mean, we got a weight room now. We didn't have one.
Yeah.
And so some things are happening and growing, and I'm seeing some successes. And but the whole time I knew, I was like, I don't know if this is it. I don't know if this is it. But I mean, I'm a head coach. This is like, this is it, right? And so, man, I went to church camp, and as soon as I get there, it was like an overwhelming feeling. I knew that this is what I'm supposed to do, and the rest is history. I mean, weeks before that, I told myself, I was like, and I've said this, I think, before in a podcast, I told myself that I need to do what Trey does. Trey was the youth pastor at Promised Land. I'm sitting there in church. 5 minutes later, Trey's walking down the aisle to say I'm going to plant a church. I'm leaving Promised Land. And I was like, there's a job opening here. And I just said that's what I wanted to do. It was weird. And I just kept that to myself. Haley and I knew about it and ended up going to church camp, and it just solidified the calling. I was like, I know this is where I'm supposed to be. Like, I could just stay here all year. This is it.
Which I guess can root back all the way to Trey inviting you to do games on Wednesday night.
Right. And you
kind of like, I guess, into the ministry world.
Yeah.
Got you.
So moral of the story, if you're listening, if you get involved at church, there's no telling what the Lord's going to do with you.
Amen.
There's no telling, but it's all going to be worth it.
Yeah. So how long were you at Drew Central?
I was there for 2 seasons. I got back, surrendered to the ministry there at Drew Central. I was scared to death to tell anybody because I was like, we got a game Friday night. I was like, what's going on? So I went, and I first had to tell my team, because I told the church, I was like, hey, don't post anything on Facebook, because they took a picture. I was like, don't do any of that. I got to go tell my guys tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
And
that was on a Sunday.
Yeah. And so Monday morning we're coming in. I think this is the week before school started. Coming in, it's like the 2nd or 3rd week of football practice. And I told my guys, I was like, hey, surrender to the ministry. I don't know what that's going to look like in the future, but I'm committing to you guys today that I'm going to be here this football season. Yeah. I was like, in the future, I don't know. Right. I might be here 5 years or 10 years, but I'm telling you guys this because I want you to know I'm committing to you this season. And I was scared. I thought they was going to quit on me. And then I had guys come up and say, Coach, we knew you was going to be a preacher all along. I was like, man, would have been good to know that on the front end. Yeah. But it just goes back to show kind of the what I saw as being important. Like, I wasted a lot of time in high school and college, but I knew what was important looking back. Yeah. Spiritual things were much more important than these sports and all this. Yeah. I just used it as a platform to kind of fulfill my purpose. Okay, and so the players knew it. I was pouring into them probably a little bit more than I legally should have been doing, but it's a small town. Right. Churches everywhere, and I was, if a kid got in the car with me, they was going to hear about Jesus. They was going to hear it.
Yeah. Which, let's talk about this real quick. You went to church camp. A lot of your football players, Drew Central,
they were there.
Monticello's kind of small town like Hamburg.
Yeah.
And so you saw a lot of your football players at camp.
Yeah.
Did you notice kind of, I guess, them being at camp and kind of take a look back and not really being their coach that week, but see like, hey, this is what is important for these kids?
Yeah, that was really big. I'm glad you asked that. I hadn't really put it into words, but to go somewhere to where they know that I'm their coach, they have that level of respect for me. But I'm here for another purpose. It's not, we're not worried about winning games.
Or drills.
Yeah. Nothing like that. We're here to have a good time, and we're going to do it based around the gospel.
Right.
And so to know that they're there for that. Now, some of them probably went there because of girls or whatever, but they still knew they were going to church camp.
Right.
And for them to know that that's what I saw as important, I think looking back, that was very important, that the players that went and saw me, they knew that this was more important than this week of practice, than this week of drills, than this week of weights. They saw that as way more important. So that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Which we just had a special guest that we've been talking about for a while.
Yeah, we have been talking about her, and she just walks by. My wife, Haley, she is here, and my beautiful little girl, Rowan. So, special guest coming into the podcast room right now.
And so, as we're wrapping this up, what does your transition from, surrendering to the ministry, to now?
Which
We talked about. You told your team. You said, "I'm committing to this season."
Told my team, and then that's when it got tough a few weeks later because I had 2 churches call me in like the same time.
Yep.
Those 2 churches are the one that right here I'm speaking at today, Sharon Baptist Church here in Benton, Pastor Michael Reese, who was I considered one of my spiritual mentors in my life, probably the only spiritual mentor I had at the time, and but Promised Land called me too. So the guy, both the pastors were biased because the guy that I would talk to about coming to Sharon was my pastor at Promised Land, Josh. Yeah. Well, he's also called me, and then the pastor that I would talk to about going to Promised Land, about being the youth pastor, was Michael. And I was like, oh, man, I don't have a pastor to talk to in this situation because how are they not going to be biased?
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I talked to Trey Emery. I was like, he's going to be the most unbiased as possible. He's no longer at Promised Land. Talked to him, and he told me something. He said, no matter what, if you're serving the Lord, he's going to bless it.
Yeah.
That's
and
true.
So
Good advice.
Yeah, so I came here in view of a call, and I just knew. Haley knew it as well. She probably knew it before me. As soon as we left the building, we felt a connection here to the people here, and we felt a need to go there. And, the decision was to come to Benton.
Do you remember that FaceTime when he told us?
Yes.
Did you know?
Yes.
We might have talked on the phone, I guess.
But I was letting him do, work at it at his own pace, his own confirmation.
And what I'm speaking about this FaceTime is I remember Rob FaceTimed us. We were at the house one night, our family, and Rob was like, I don't remember if I knew, but Rob, he told everyone that he surrendered to the ministry. And I remember he FaceTimed you and told us all, and you told us, I'm committing to my football team this season, but wherever the Lord leads me next, I don't know.
Yeah.
And we were all just like, wow.
Yeah.
But I saw it coming.
And so here we are 3.5 years later, and the Lord has blessed this and opened so many doors.
Yeah, it is so cool to look back on my journey and what we just talked about and all the life experience and the things that I went through as a teenager, as a college student, the real life that I look back and regret, but also appreciate because I learned so much from.
Yeah.
I was a part of the real world and made some stupid, boneheaded mistakes growing up, sure, but I learned from all of them. And all my teaching and coaching, all that prepared me so much. There was no other course that could have prepared me better to come be a student pastor here at Sharon than my life to now. So it's a true calling to be here, and I just love being here.
It's a funny story that Rob always tells, He always talks about writing a book, the parallels of coaching and ministry.
Dude. Yeah.
They're all the same.
Yeah. It is so much the same, and I say this all the time. The definition, if you look into a Webster dictionary, one of the definitions of a coach is is a covered wagon that's going to get people or get important people from where they are to where they want to be.
Yeah.
And then I look back on, hey, that's kind of the role of a pastor as well. He's a shepherd. He's getting important people in the eyes of God, children of God, from where they are to where God wants them to be.
Right.
So that's only the difference, is getting people from where they are to where they want to be, from where they are to where God wants them to be. And that's much more important than coaching. I'll say that. Like, it's much more important, but coaching is still an amazing platform to fulfill that purpose. Coaches have a ministry like no other, and I like to encourage coaches because they can use it as a bad platform, but there's a great opportunity to use it as a good platform.
Yeah,
amazing.
That's really
parallels
good.
There.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. We pray that you've been encouraged and enjoyed hearing just a glimpse into Rob's life of growing up, college, to just where he is now and how the Lord has blessed him and his wife Haley and their new baby girl Rowan. We hope that we all just join us on this adventure of following Jesus, loving others, and reaching the lost.